Sir Rick here, reminding you to tune in to our new segment called The Sledgehammer, featuring those who make a legal difference in our industry.
All right, welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. I am what they call Buckle Up Bob, and I've got with me Mr. Gary Babbitt. And Gary has just a resume that is astonishing, you know, and we're going to let Gary talk a little bit about this, but just to give you all out there some ideas of what this gentleman brings in his resume. 5.4 million accident-free miles, 2013 TXTA Driver of the Year, 2013 National Driver of the Year, 11-12 ATA America's Road Team Captain, and an 8-time nominee in the Texas Motor Transportation Association's Professional Driver Commendation Program. I mean, and folks, that's just 5 of about 20. So, I mean, as you can see, the first 5 are amazing. Gary, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, Gary, you and I met over a year ago when I, through a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Kenny Ray, got me involved in the DFW Council of Safety Professionals. I always want to mix those last 3 letters up, right?
It's easy to do.
Yeah. And so, and you served chairman on that for several years as well, correct?
I was the first chairman this year and second vice. You have to work your way up to chairman, but this past year it was a huge honor. We accomplished a lot of things with our council. We have a great board. We have great membership that are always willing to step up, and when we have a program that we're going to put on, whether it's the truck driving championships or the fall seminar or whatever, they have just been amazing. So
yeah, and now the fall seminar, there's just been 2, right?
Just been 2.
And I've been to both of them, and I'm just going to tell you folks out there, if you're not a member of the DFW Council of Safety Professionals, please look into it and join. It was amazing, a lot of great speakers. Some of the most important things I've gotten is lawyers and what we can do to help yourselves and your carriers and your companies out there. And even at one of the, last year, one of the council meetings, we had a lawyer. And I remember talking to him about, you know, things that we code, that if we put preventable, that could end up hurting them. They can get around it, but just little things like that we do to ourselves. And so there's a lot of valuable information by attending these. Tell me a little bit about the council, because I know there's some, I've met some of them and they are amazing, but there's some special guests there that are at every meeting that are advantageous to all of us.
Yes, the one group that is always there, they're always there for the council too, by the way.
Yes, they are.
They participate in many of these events, are our CV officers.
Yes.
And they are the most dedicated, the most knowledgeable, and their willingness to share what is going on in safety with our trucks, our equipment, the highways, they have just been an asset that you can't even begin to describe. There are no words.
Yes.
And they're always willing. If you come to our council meetings, they're always there for you. They're always willing to answer your questions. And you brought up the attorney a while ago. We actually have an attorney on our board, and one of the best attorneys in his field, Mr. Peyton Inge with Kershaw Anderson, and so he's there to answer questions too most times. And there's just so many advantages. You've got Kenny Ray, you've got Steve Wilhelms. There are so many that are on our board that are there every week. Every week, every second Tuesday. How about that? But they very seldom miss. They're amazing with their knowledge. Of course, I'll be there if you want to ask a question for something from a driver's point of view. I'll be glad to answer it for you. But it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me in my career, and I got involved after I stepped down out of the truck to have something to do, and the more I went, the more I wanted to go.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Okay.
It's like once Kenny Ray invited me. He
Sure.
was a part of our insurance, and you know, and even Kenny to this day, and I actually feel this way. He makes me feel like it, but he always calls me. He goes, "You're like a brother to me." There's nothing I would. But I think he says that to everybody, but he means it. It's not just words. Kenny Ray is like a brother, and what I'm finding is, a lot of the members of this council and the people show up it's a brotherhood.
It is.
It really is, because I've never felt out of place at it. I've never felt like a stranger, even the first 1 or 2 times I went. And then I had a few of them with me at the Texas Trucking Association conference
Yes,
this past summer, and they all just come up and they remember me.
Sure.
I'm horrible with names, and these folks all remember me. You know, so I remember, you know, talking to that and saying, Rick, we got to get a part of this TXTA, because Rick's a gifted
Absolutely.
speaker and could do so well at some of these.
And he would be welcome.
Yes.
TXTA, what people don't understand, a lot of these all of the councils, they are kind of a arm. That's what I would say, of the Texas Trucking Association, and the TXTA, the membership. You want your brotherhood to grow, join TXTA. If you like Dallas-Fort Worth Council of Safety Professionals, I promise you, your brotherhood will grow exponentially. You'll be meeting people that are experts in their field. They know what they're talking about, and they will share their knowledge.
I
So,
love it. Speaking of, you know, one of the things at the last meeting that I signed up for, so I'll follow up again tomorrow, because we have a meeting tomorrow, right?
okay, sure.
Yeah, so
Hope to see you
tomorrow
there.
at what, 11:30?
11:30.
11:30. You know, again, go online, I guess they can, right?
Yeah, you can go online, go to our DFW Safety Council, dfwcsp.com, go to our website. You can actually pay online. If you want to join, which I hope you do, you can actually pay your dues online.
Yes, and you can sign
And
up
they're
several-
very reasonable. by
They
the
really
way.
are.
Yes.
I signed up, I think, enough for 3 or 4 of our company to go, so that, you know, if I can't make it, we want to send a representative
Sure.
to every
I'm
meeting.
so glad you are.
And then we have a nice dinner and some really great topics. And one of the things that they talked about that I'm excited about is I put in and volunteered to judge the TXTA competition down in
Oh, I
Corpus
can't wait
Christi
to
this
have you.
summer. And I'm like, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you. I said, oh, I think that would be great knowledge, and you know, me getting to judge the police officer, because this is a police officer competition down there. And so just getting to be a part of that and getting the BCB name out there, and people going to know throughout the state who we are, and just getting to be in that part of that brotherhood with the policemen.
May I say something
Yes.
about the Texas Challenge?
No, go right ahead.
If you out there have never been to a Texas Challenge, you've never had your company involved in a Texas Challenge, you don't know what you're missing. If you've ever been to a truck driving championship, this is the officers' truck driving championship. They of course, they obviously have to have a driver. I got involved in it in 2010. After I left Central, I had to do it on my own dime. I haven't missed a one, never will. You will see a side of police officers and a brotherhood and a commitment to safety on our highways that you didn't realize was out there. They are my highway heroes. That's the only way I can put it, and I will not, and as long as I'm able to get down there, I will be a part of the Texas Challenge if they'll have me.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm going to check with Ann and make sure that she does have my name down. I watched her write it down, but I don't want to miss out on that, because I agree with you. Several years ago, we got involved with our local DOT officers and actually did the roadside blitz with them. They were kind enough to tell us where that was going to be, and we provided lunches and drinks, but that guy, for the local authorities, he actually competes, and I think he finished third twice in the Texas, and he retired, but he made me feel, he even had me in my own crawler, you know, because I told him I wanted to see what was done, and we crawled under every truck they brought in, and he would point out and let me measure things, and just to be that hands-on. And I just remember, because I have a little bit of a belly on him, and this guy's pretty skinny and fit. He's ex-military, but there was a low boy, you know, step deck, And it pulled in, and he looked at me, and I said, and I had this weird look on my face. He goes, "How about I just take this one?" I said, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to fit under that thing." But he was just awesome. I mean, yeah, gave me my own crawler, and we went through every truck. I stayed out there for hours with him and just did every truck.
You learned a lot, too.
I did. We had 2 different ones. They set up one in Alvarado and one right down the street out here in Mansfield.
Right.
We went to both of them, and it was just really eye-opening. And, you know, one of the things I thought about, too, is, you know, just like we complain a lot where, yes, there's bad truck drivers out there. We all know that. There's bad in everything. But that's not the whole industry. On a whole, the truck drivers are pretty good, pretty courteous, and all that. And I think it goes the same thing with police officers. There's a couple that you just scratch your head like, what are you beating me up for this or that? But that's the exception to the rule. The majority care about you and the safety, and that's really all it's about.
Well, obviously, I want to give you a little insight. I have a granddaughter that is a Dallas police officer, and her husband is actually a Red Oak police officer. Those happened after the child got involved with the DPS and the local. But I couldn't have been prouder as a grandfather of either one of them and what they do and the sacrifices they make.
Yes.
So
I tell everybody in our orientation, I personally, and this is just a personal thing, I believe truck drivers have the 3rd most dangerous jobs in the world, and I put them after military and police officers. Mm-hmm. And I said, but you have one thing in common, and they all look at me funny when I say, you all have to deal with snipers. Mm-hmm. And they go, what? And I go, well, the military and the police have to do with ones with bullets. Mm-hmm. You have those 4-wheelers jumping out of the line, cutting you off, doing all this stuff. They're basically sniping you, only they're using vehicles instead of the bullets and the guns. And I said, so you all 3 deal with them, but it's just so dangerous, every one of those professions.
Well, you mentioned my 5.4 million miles safe driving, for instance. Okay, I can tell you, truthfully, that I wouldn't have 500 miles safe driving if it hadn't have been for DPS, the locals out there keeping the chaos down. I believe in these people. They have saved me. One of them actually saved my life one time. The truck broke down. It was 18 degrees. There was no power, nothing. And I was about to freeze to death. And if a DPS officer hadn't stopped, I believe I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, I have multiple reasons why I'm so committed to them, obviously, but how can you say thank you to somebody that saved you?
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can.
That's
I'm going to be helping them every time they ask me. So
I love that. One of the things I always loved about the police officers is, because I'm a Christian guy, and I know you are too.
Absolutely.
And they talk about, I went to an insurance seminar, and the guest speaker was an ex-Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. And they talk about, he actually referenced the ultimate servant, which was our Lord. And I was like, I found that, it's not what I expected. And then on the police cars, you know, I don't know if they still, I haven't looked at one, but they always had to serve and protect. Not to protect and serve, but it was serve first. And I've always remembered that, because that's really what we should all have, is that servant heart. And like you said, you know, you do the best you can to repay them and to serve them in a way that you can. And part of that is this DFW council. Again, you had 5.4 million miles.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing, Gary.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I didn't get them by myself. You have to have mentors when you come up. You have to have the guys that take and guide you. And I had some of the best at Central Freight Lines. The second thing you need is a safety director that can sell his policies. It's one thing to have the policies, and they work, don't misunderstand me, but you have to sell that driver. And this guy, unfortunately, he passed this last September. Amazing man, 40-year friendship. But there would be no Gary Babbitt if it wasn't for Gary Thomas's policies. And I can tell you many times out on the highway, whether I was meeting a car coming the wrong way, whether it was a steering axle blowout, whatever the situation, whatever came up in front of me, I knew that book like the back of my hand. And I would automatically go to, what does the book say? And I can tell you on multiple occasions, it saved probably my life. On other occasions, it saved me from having an accident. So the drivers out there that are listening, I would encourage you to follow your safety departments, follow those guidelines. I don't think there's a one of them that's there, and the same way with FMCSA regulations. There's not one regulation or one safety policy that wasn't put in there to keep you from having an accident. It was, they were all put there to save you, not to harass you.
No. And you bring up a great point, you know, the selling part. I've years ago, I sold cars.
Okay.
And in my third month, I was their number one salesperson. And so you do have to sell. And you got to get them to believe it in their heart. Many will say, yeah, I believe in safety. But it's not in their heart because then they'll go out and do things. And there are some that just, you can't sell. And that's where the carrier's got to make that hard decision. Years ago, I had a driver say, you enjoy this, don't you? And I said, no. If you find a safety driver that enjoys having to let somebody go, he's in the wrong profession. The goal should be to retain and educate. Yes, getting rid is sometimes part of it. You just have to. But that should never be the funnest part of the job. I mean, it just isn't.
Well, I ran into that. I did the orientations for Central. And I was the first guy they had to get past. And unfortunately, I had to make the decision that these guys just didn't have what it took to be a driver. Everybody has to provide for their family. I understand that. But I also have an obligation. I had an obligation to Central Freight Lines and to that driver that's going to be out there on our highways, that I put the best, safest driver out there. And it was for his own good too. So many times, a lot of these guys may have got out of trucking, but some people are just not cut out for it.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with some more with Mr. Gary Babbitt.
Okay, so forth.
I want to thank you for being on BCB Live. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you, Andy. Have a good one, buddy. Thank you for joining BCB Live.
I want to thank each and every one. Hey, thank you for taking time to join BCB Live.
I want to thank you for coming on and shedding light.
Thank you so much. Loved having you on here. Woo! Great job, Clara. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station of the nation, where our guest today is Mr. Gary Babbitt. And man, we've been talking about a lot of things. We've talked about the DFW Safety Council of Professionals, and then some of the competitions coming up. We do have truck driver championships coming up in this area in March, I believe.
Should be the later part of March.
Yeah. But now you also served as a witness on House Bill 19, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that, Gary. What was that like, and what did you provide for them?
As a driver, I wanted the committee to understand that these accidents that are going through litigation, some of them, and I've had it happen to me, and I don't think there's a driver out there that has driven very far that hasn't had a four-wheeler or a group of four-wheelers set him up for an accident. And what I did, I tried to explain to him about target zones, what I call target zones, areas on our highways where the driver can get trapped. And if I had anything that I could get through to the drivers today, always be aware aware of your surroundings, because these areas are there. I mean, they can pull out in front of you, they can shut you down, they can cause you to have a rear-end collision. I can give you a perfect example.
Yeah, give us some. What are some of these areas? What do they look like?
Well, the most dangerous type was, I don't know whether you've ever been to the old Texas Stadium in that area where the old Central Freight Lines was, where you come up the ramp, you make a circle, you get on 114. Well, you're in the right lane of 114, which you should be. 300 yards in front of you, 183 and 114 come together. You've got 38,000 pounds on a set of doubles, okay? You've got traffic flying by you, obviously, in the left lane. Now you're merging into traffic. Now, how easy is it for one of these people to get in front of you and slow down and slow down? They've got you already at a slow speed. You haven't had a chance to build your speed up good. And that's why when I say always watch your surroundings, it's places like this to where you can get trapped, but then watch the driver in front of you. If they're looking in that mirror and they're bending down like that, or they're looking in that left mirror or that right mirror, they've got a plan to go left, right, or stop. Mm-hmm. So always be aware of your surroundings. Check your mirrors, work your mirrors every 4 to 8 seconds. That is monumental. Oh, and most of these characters, they travel in threes. That way they can box you in. But the target zones are where traffic lanes either go from narrow to wide, entrance ramps, change.
Merge points.
So huge. Be aware of those situations. Be on your toes. We don't have time to be playing with the radios. It's focus, focus, focus. I don't care what you are doing in that truck. Focus on your surroundings. Focus on what's in front of you. Focus on your following distance. You can focus, we can focus here for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So those are things that I would like, that I did want to point out. And they actually asked me about cameras. And I think they were, maybe some of them thought I would be against cameras. I, as a professional driver, am all for cameras, because while this driver that was in front of me, he kept slowing down. I'm down to about 15 miles an hour. I've got my flashers on warning people behind me because I've got traffic coming by. I can't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. He locked it down. He thought he had it judged to where I'd just barely tap him. Well, if I would have had a camera, we could have got year and make of the model, we could have got the license plate number, we could have got everything that happened during that time. And what does that do? It saves Central Freight Lines, it saves Gary, it saves my record, it saves, and that is what I call a frivolous accident, But those things happen. They happen on our highways every day. But it's defense wins championships. Never forget that.
That's
as
right.
a driver.
That's what I always say. It's true in everything.
It's true in everything. You take an offensive driver, he's going to have an accident, I promise you.
Yeah.
You take a defensive driver, that's how I got my 5.4 million miles. Defense wins championships.
There you go. That's a great... I got to remember that sport, because we use sports analogies all the time. And I love how you said focus, because my wife now jokes with everybody. She goes, you have no idea how hard it is to live and be married to a safety director. Because she'll do that.
Yeah,
sure.
Sure.
Like you saying, we don't need to be... I said, okay, we're in traffic, and now you decide that you want to check your messages or you want to reach for that soda. I said, wait till it thins out. Where are you going to... Or now I just get sarcastic. I go, where are you going to go? We just going to run into him, or what are we going to do here? And she just gets so mad at me. She goes, and she tells everybody, you don't know how hard it is to live with a safety director.
My wife, I still drive for Central when I'm in my pickup, obviously. I took a friend of mine to one of my ex-safety directors, he was head of risk management, and he rode to San Antonio with me. He said, I have never, ever ridden this far with this kind of following distance. But you, as a driver and a professional, you're in that vehicle 30 minutes going home or an hour.
Right.
You're in that truck 14 hours. Never get out of what got you there. Because if I can keep that following distance in that big rig, I can keep it in my car.
Yes.
And the one thing that I would like to share too, if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
For those that don't know, the golden rule of safety, do you know what it is?
I'm not even gonna venture a guess.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be wrong. I got many, but
Drive like every vehicle on the road with you is a family member. Would you text with your daughter beside you? Would you tailgate your mother? Would you cut your son off? You know, always keep that mentality. And if everybody drove that way, we could cut accidents down to weather related or mechanical.
Yeah.
So that's what I call the golden rule of
I
highway
agree
safety.
with it. Our drivers have actually mentioned that before. They've actually said it. Said I pretend that that's my son, my daughter.
Great.
And we do try to make things
wonderful.
personal around here because that is the way to do it. I know at Christmas, I put up pictures of my grandsons. I go, this is why we do what we do, and we try to protect. These are who you're protecting out there, And then the drivers, had their own family stories to share. I'm passionate about intersections and coming to complete stops because my grandfather was killed when somebody ran a stop sign. So it is personal to me to some degree, and so we have to make that because I agree with you. If you can make it personal,
Right.
you're going to be a better driver.
Absolutely.
And what you were talking about out there on keeping your head on a swivel, every report I've looked at says the number one way to prevent accidents is yield the right of way.
There you go.
Yield the right of way. And I'm like, and you can't do that unless you are defensive posture and space and speed management. And, we used to say speed and space management, but I'm finding out more and more that if you control your space, you probably 99% of the time you have the speed. You're not doing 75 and still got plenty of distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. But most of the time what we see on our videos, some of the videos that are out there, you see the speed is under the speed limit, but they're still tailgating. So we want to encourage drivers to, on the show and everywhere, to focus on that space management.
What I put out there to everybody I know, and I think the formula is 1.489. Okay. But if every driver will look down at their speed and multiply it times 1.5, that's how many feet a second they're traveling. So if I'm traveling 105 feet a second in an 18-wheeler, and I'm 3 seconds off of this guy's back door, then good things are not going to happen for me.
No.
So, keep aware of that and learn about perception and reaction time. If you're driving distracted, your perception and reaction time actually doubles.
Yeah.
And the normal perception and reaction time is 2.5 seconds. So now, if I'm traveling 100 feet a second, or 90 feet a second, and my perception and reaction time doubles to 5 seconds, I've traveled almost 450 feet ignoring the road.
Yes.
So that doesn't work well.
No, and we're all about education here at BCB Live, and so one of the things I've learned over the years is in simulators, when they throw a problem at a driver, it takes them 1 second to say, I got a problem.
Yeah.
And it takes them a half a second to step on the brake pedal, and depending on your equipment, could be 3/4 second brake lag time. So that means you've traveled 2.25 seconds before you even begin to slow down, and at 100 feet per second, that's almost a football field.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And it's just like, man, folks,
and
those are the real numbers.
Well, and once you get those numbers, it does make a difference in people's attitude toward the vehicle in front of them. So.
Yeah, and the cameras are great. We've actually had a driver where it was more of a road rage incident, and they flagged us over, which never do out on the interstate. Go to a well-lit public place. But our driver, Dave, got out. The driver was mad. We couldn't really tell what was going on, but we had the camera. Then, thanks to the hood mirrors, make sure you got hood mirrors
Yes.
on your vehicle too. The guy walks around, takes someone out of his pocket, and we see this. And then our driver starts to take off, and the sensor went off. That other motorist went out and stabbed our steer tire.
Oh, wow.
So then we sent that video to the police. Didn't write a ticket to anybody. So we sent that footage to the police department, and they went back and arrested the guy. But it was just, those cameras are hugely things that can save you.
Well, and the driver, the victim of road rage, has the most control over road rage.
Yes.
You are the one that you're not giving your man card up at all by turning. The worst thing you can do is make eye contact. The second thing you can do is interact. And if one out of every 4 fatality accidents in this country involves aggressive driving, why would you want to get involved in that, especially when 37% of all road rage incidents involve a handgun? So, you're the only way you can win is, back to your thoughts earlier, to have the Christian attitude. Turn the other cheek.
That's it.
Hey, and you haven't given up anything. You may have saved your life and his,
Right.
and others around you. So
From the great movie Forrest Gump, right? Stupid is as stupid does, sir, right? Let stupid be stupid. What's crazier, right? Somebody being stupid or you thinking you can fix stupid, right? People have been trying that for years and you can't fix it.